Okay, let's roll in. So, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining in this important webinar where we're going to discuss how the internet exchange points in Asia Pacific are supporting the internet during COVID-19. I have an amazing list of panelists and an amazing moderator as well, who's going to lead the discussions together with our speakers. As most of you know, that an internet exchange point is an essential technical infrastructure where networks come together to connect and exchange internet traffic. IXPs help to create shorter, more direct routes for the internet traffic, and they become more crucial, especially in these times where everyone is using internet. It's becoming a lifeline to provide a more affordable local internet traffic experience. So the traffic doesn't go on the international link, and that could be expensive. So overall, what IXP does, it's bring an affordable and more quality internet at your doorstep. Today, we have four of the major IXPs in Asia Pacific. We have Toyama-san from Japan Internet Exchange. We have Raja Mohan from Malaysia Internet Exchange. We have Rupesh Shrestha from Nepal Internet Exchange. And we are expecting Kenneth from Hong Kong Internet Exchange, and he should be joining us soon. Our moderator today would be Aftab Siddiqui, my lovely colleague from Asia Pacific, who's our senior manager for technical engagement. And you must have seen him because he's doing so much of webinars these days, folks. Some housekeeping rules. Please post your comments in the chat box. Tell us where are you joining us. That would be nice. But in terms of questions, we request you to please put your questions in Q&A that you can see in front of your screen. We'll pick up the questions, and during the webinar as they go, we'll take the questions and we'll get them answers. In case you are coming from an internet exchange, you may like to speak and exchange some experience, and we would love to give you a stage so you can tell us what is happening in your internet exchange during COVID-19. But for that, we request you to raise your hand, and then we can pass on the microphone to you. For the other participants who necessarily are not from an internet exchange, again, we request you to use Q&A option to post your questions. With this, the last thing is the recording. So this session is being recorded. If you have any reservations, please let us know. But I hope it should be going fine, because this recording will help other people who are not able to join us to know what we discussed. The session is also live stream, and I see there are people who have already joined us watching it live. So folks, I hope the next 85 minutes or so would be an interesting and useful discussion. And with this, I'll pass it on to Aftab.
Thank you, Naveed. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. And if you are in the Pacific part of the world, then good evening to you. Well, the sun is still out, but it's a very fine sunny day in Sydney, Australia. And I hope wherever you are, it's a very nice day and you're enjoying it probably from your home or even from your home office, or if you're in office, then I hope you are safe and sound. Well, we are all connected right now. People are still joining in with the help of internet. And there's one crucial aspect of internet in the whole ecosystem, which is called an IXP, Internet Exchange Point. And during this time, I think this is the most important aspect of the whole internet ecosystem. But just like everything was impacted, I believe the IXPs were impacted as well because of COVID-19. And that's the whole idea, to bring people in and let's talk about it. Just an FYI to everyone who is listening, who's watching this session, this is more of a conversation. We are not here to teach you anything. So we would like to hear from you. So ask as many questions as you like. uh, share your concern, share your amazing stories if you have any. What's happening, and we would like to hear from you as well. To start our session, what we're gonna do first is we will introduce you to our panel. As Navid said, that we are still waiting for one person, Kenneth Chan. He's gonna join us very soon. But without any further ado, let me invite our very own Toyama-san um, to share his side of the story from the JPNAP.
Okay, so this is for HKIX. Okay. Yep. So hello everyone. So my name is Katsuyasu Toyama of an JPNAP, Internet Exchange in Japan, and also I am acting as an chair of APIX, or Asia Pacific or Internet Exchange Association. Okay, so today I would like to introduce briefly about the COVID-19 situation in Japan and our JPNAP case. Okay, so please go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the Japanese situation after the COVID-19. So, like in the world, other world, we are worrying about COVID-19 in January, but we didn't do actual actions by the end of the February. At the end of February, the government recommended the school shutdown. Okay, so that was the beginning of this story. Okay, the people, the students that study from the home at the time, and in the March, some companies started working from home. So our team, JPNAP team, also started the working from home since mid-March. And as you can see the graph underneath, the number of new infected persons, confirmed infected persons, are increasing from the mid-March. So the people started to fear about this virus. And early April, the government start the declaration of the emergency. And as you may know, that in Japan, we did not have a legal base for this lockdown. So this is a not legal action, but the recommendations people to stay home. So people are follow this recommendation and working, studying from home. Okay, so as you could see from the, still, yeah. So as you could see in the middle of the April, the number of infected is gradually down. So May to June, we started to lift the state of emergency and now lift it all. But still now the infected persons gradually increase again. It may be the second way. So please go to the next slide. And the traffic of the JPNAP is described here. Yeah, so the big newspaper in Japan, the Yomiuri newspapers, they wrote article using the JPNAP data. And comparing the in February and April data, daytime traffic has become a 1.6 times higher. Okay, so please take a look at the graph downward. The left is in the before the corona, and right is in after during the corona. And as you can see, at 3 o'clock, 3 p.m., the traffic was in a 1.3 terabit, and that became to 2.1 terabit in the April. So the traffic curve is increasing, and you can see the traffic increase very clearly. And the newspaper says that this is due to the work from home and the remote study. But my observation is this is mainly by the video traffic, like on the YouTube, Amazon Movie, or Netflix. So that is the most big drivers of the traffic. And fortunately, the peak traffic itself is usually in nighttime. And almost all days, the night peak time is also the night. Only the one day in Sunday, the rainy Sunday, the daytime traffic is just more than the night traffic, but usually the night traffic is in the peak. And later I will say the Japanese ISPs have the enough capacity, so we didn't rush about an increase in capacity. And of course, the JPNAP capacity was also enough. Okay, so that is in the Japanese trend, the traffic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Toyama-san. So this one interesting point. So there was no actual lockdown in whole Japan?
Yeah, so legal lockdown. No, we do not have a legal base. So only the government recommend, and people follow that.
Okay, so it was a suggestion from the government that if you can stay at home, you should stay at home, and people stayed at home.
Yes, 80 or 90% of the people are stay at the home, I think.
Oh well, that's amazing. See, sometimes the suggestions work from the government. That's a really nice thing. So again, going into the details, you're saying there was how much percentage of traffic change it was witnessed?
The traffic, the peak traffic is in 10% or on the 20% increase, but the daytime traffic is in 60% increase.
Oh wow, that's amazing! Right, good. So next in line we have our very own Rupesh from Nepal, the MyIX guru. So he's going to share what's happening in our Himalayas. So you're muted.
Thank you, Aftab, for the introduction of being a Himalayan person. So thank you very much to Internet Society and APX for giving this opportunity to be discussing the panel about the impact of COVID-19 in our exchange. Next slide, please. Okay. Just before I go into the internet exchange impact and other factors of the challenges and all, I'd just like to give the brief outline of COVID-19 outbreak situation in Nepal. This is very unlike what's happened in Japan, as presented by Toyama-san, where he's already mentioned that the graph is going down, whereas in context of Nepal, the graph is actually going up now. Though the first case of COVID-19 was confirmed on 23rd of January initially. So that was the first case in South Asia as well, probably. And after that, we had a long silence. That was the student coming back from Wuhan, China. And after that, there was a long silence. A lot of discussions were going on. Preventive actions were being taken. And the second case was only reported in probably around March. So after two months, March 22nd or 23rd, if I'm not wrong. Then the lockdown was imposed by the government, complete shutdown, and lockdown was imposed on 24th of March. And it was for total 82 days of complete lockdown. And the lockdown was withdrawn on 14th of June, very recently. Right? So during that time, there was a slight growth in number of cases of COVID-19, but the most of the cases that's right now, when I took this graph, it was 2 days back, it was 9,561 cases were reported. Now it's 10,500 something. So within 2 days, they were like every day, daily, it's like 500 to 600 new cases in a small country like Nepal. That's quite a lot of number. And the most of the cases are from the people are the workers working in India and coming back to Nepal. So around 90% of the people who were infected, reported infected, are people coming from India to Nepal because of this situation. And then 10% was more of a local contact. And since the lockdown period, the schools, large gatherings are closed, and many companies have preferred to work from home, as in the most of the countries. Though the lockdown has been lifted, we still have schools and large gathering prohibited. And as you can see, the total number of deaths so far is only 23 2 days back, but we have 25 now. And just to control the crowd further, the government has imposed odd and even system for the vehicles based on the number plate. So the people actually, even they're working from home, there are still some people work on 2 days or 3 days a week from office, and then again go back to, and then work from home the rest of the days. So that's basically an outline of the situation, how it is in Nepal right now. And then, as mentioned, the curve is increasing right now. So right now, the infection, the local contacts, and all those things are increasing right now. So more and more people are still working from home. Though the government has lifted lockdown, people are still preferring to work from home. So the traffic is still has been remaining the same. With the traffic situation, the peak traffic growth we've noticed was 19% from the earlier this year to the COVID-19 period. So as you can see, NPIX is not a very big IX. We as context of the Nepal, I mean, it's relative. We have like only local content. We do not have CDN traffic and all those traffic. So before this lockdown, we have like 6.8 was around the peak traffic that we used to have on a normal day. Now it's hovering around 8 gigabits. So basically, we've calculated that as a 19% growth in the native traffic. And the capacity wise, we do not have that much of a problem with the capacity, but we see that there is a significant growth. And if there is it's going to be the same way the growth is going to come up, then definitely there will be a capacity problem in the IX as well. But whatever capacity planning that we've done during the FIFA World Cup 2-3 years back, and then the upgrades subsequent year, I think that has impacted our network and then our system to accommodate the small growth that in traffic. But it was also that it's not only the traffic has grown because of OTT or announced portal or work from home employees working on a local hosted server in various data centers and IXPs. There has also been the traffic decrease. So like, for example, the online stock exchange, which used to be one of the major traffic component of internet exchange in Nepal, that's completely stopped. So that traffic decrease is also there. There has been a local research and education network, NRAN. They've also started Zoom, and then they locally hosted it, and then but there was not a significant impact of that traffic in our exchange, though that's very nominal. The physical, there was no physical or major changes executed in AIX during the lockdown period. Yeah, understandably, there were some minor maintenances that we've executed, and I'll go to the next slide, and then I can explain like more detail about what we prepared during the exchange during the lockdown and the COVID situation. If we can go to the next slide. And there's also one more slide at the bottom where we've I've just put that slide because that's one of the OTT provider, local OTT provider, and they can see that after the lockdown, the traffic suddenly increased in his graph on 24th of March. So as mentioned, during the 82 days of lockdown, there was no major outages or physical issues reported, luckily. Maybe owing to the most of the outages happening because of the trucks and transportations or the road diggings and all those things. But since there were not much of the immediate maintenance or immediate things happening, so there was no serious cases reported. One few minor scheduled maintenance we entertained. Those were from some of the IX data centers and some ISPs. But we did prepare for this lockdown situation in advance. As soon as the lockdown was announced, we immediately reached out to data centers where our switches were being hosted. We reached out to them. We got the schedules from them. We got their contacts from them, and got a commitment that they will have the remote hand support ready for NPIX in case of any kind of a requirement. During this period, we also had like NPNOG team along with our NPIX technical team and secretary staff. We also had NPNOG technical team, PCS team on a standby just in case whoever could reach out to the exchange facility during the lockdown period could help us with facilitating this any kind of a repair maintenance. But we were prepared for this. During the lockdown period, we also got an opportunity to talk with Navid. And the Internet Society has been nice to provide us, agree to provide us 2 extreme switches, which we are expecting probably in a week or 2 time. So that will definitely help us in upgrading and expanding activities. But that was something that we were able to do. Also, the new members joining was postponed. There were 2 members who wanted to join into IX. We had to postpone there. Not a very big IXP, but we also received 1 or 2 new requests from the remote ISPs who also wanted to join the NPIX during the lockdown period, and those were also put on a kind of a deferred. Those were also postponed. Benefit, as Toyama-san and Navid has already mentioned, during this lockdown, IX has definitely helped the people working from home. A lot of companies who had their servers hosted locally with our member data centers and ISPs, they had a very smooth access to their data, and they could nicely work from home without any problem. So that, I think, was a very good factor for the contribution of an IXP NPIX for that part of the work from home. Similarly, since we are a not-for-profit, we work basically on the membership charge-based model. So even if the traffic increased, the ISPs and the data centers and the members were not very worried about the local traffic increase as much as the international traffic increase, because our fee structure is just purely on the flat membership fee. Local news portal and the locally hosted videos traffic was smooth for a lot of internet users, and that's something that again is a contribution from NPIX, and then that's something that IX has helped and for the benefit of the greater community.
Good. So that's all from you, Rupesh. That's an amazing one. It's quite unfortunate that you don't have CDNs in the country. Hopefully, if they are listening, they should come to the country. I mean, number one, it's a very nice place. So you can spend some time in Kathmandu or even in Pokhara if you come for a deployment. So it's an open invitation, I would say, on behalf of NPIX. I'm not. I hope I'm not saying anything wrong. But yeah, that's a great one. Thank you so much for that. So let me quickly go, because we're getting more Q&As. So let me quickly go through all the panelists, and then we can come back to the question and answers. Next, we have our friend Raja Mohan from the MYIX, Malaysian IX. You're still muted.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Aftab, and thank you, ISOC and APX, for inviting me to be part of the panel. Next slide. Okay, our first coronavirus case detected in Malaysia was on January 24th, and then our lockdown was on March 18th. Besides the coronavirus situation in Malaysia, we also have a change of government, unfortunately, during February. So there was some delay, and that's why the new government formed in March 1st. So that's why you see the number increased from to 770 is about confirmed cases. Immediately the new government mandated lockdown from March 18 to May 3 on several stages. So police and army also deployed. There were full roadblocks, most of the major roads, and only essential services are allowed to operate, like for instance, hospitals, banks, telecommunications, and supermarket, grocery things. Office, school closed, public transport, amenities all closed, and all only are required to work from home, except those who are required to travel. And that also require a police permit, and all schools are closed. And lockdown at home, travel only required if it's absolutely necessary. So the government mandated if you avoid these rules, you will find 1,000 ringgit, and including jail if necessary. So on May 4th, the government removed the lockdown and moved into the remedial lockdown, which is basically all the business and life resuming as normal with the social distancing and standard operating procedures. The same goes to religious and also social gathering allowed with minimum participants, and also schools started only on June 24th. That's only for essential stream, like those are sitting for exam, public exam, and that also about sports and entertainment related to be also open up gradually with the standard operating procedure. So we are almost 99%, I would say 95% back to normal, and most of them back to office already. And some big officers are actually working from home also, because I think they have to work out on the standard operating procedures. Yes, now I think our cases are basically, we are almost contained the COVID cases, and we have only about 122 deaths. And most of our COVID cases are actually based on cluster based. Those are traveling from overseas, and those are from what you call migrant workers. Next slide. Okay, the overall our traffic in MyIX, the growth is about 20% to 30%. This is overall from March to end of May. The highest peak traffic was captured during this period is about 614 gigs. And I noticed that traffic also constantly high from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. because this is where the people work from home, the online classes, the students are participating in the Google Meet, the teachers are conducting lessons, and so on and so forth. I also noticed some of the patterns where some network traffic increased as high as 100%, while some decreased as low as 100% due to the nature of business. I will go through the next slide where you can see why is it some of them are 100% increase, some of them are 100% decrease. Next slide. Okay, we analyzed on 3 networks. I don't want to mention the networks details. So the first network is basically a telco operator, and you notice that the traffic increased almost 100% on the 26th of March. The lockdown was on 18th of March, so it's about 7 days, and the lockdown was almost a weekend. It's a Wednesday, so it was it's a weekend. So that's why. So when it took about 7 days for them to normalize and come back to the work from home kind of situation. So the traffic was almost constantly high for the telco operators. The second one is a cell phone operator, mobile operators. The moment they announced the lockdown on the 18th, immediately the traffic shoot up to 25 to 35%. That is a real situation where you can see, because people are using mobile phone to people use more mobile phone compared to the fixed lines. The third situation is basically also an ISP tier 2. Their traffic dropped 100% when they announced on the lockdown. That means basically because the office is closed, there's no one go to office to work, and the enterprise customers are basically they're depending on enterprise customers. Therefore, basically they don't have much business during this period. So that's why the traffic is dropped. Next slide. Okay, and then our infra is ready because we recently upgraded our infra to 100 gig ready in late November 2019. And beside that, beside keeping local traffic local, we also improve quality of internet services by reducing the delay and improving end user experience. So some big ISP operators traffic increase due to the work from home. Then they immediately deploy additional pods, which during this period, and as a society, as a non-profit organization and a society based and operated by the industry, we basically we waive all the pod charges during the upgrade process. And MyIX is also a national internet exchange, and as a part of the corporate responsibility, we do provide value-added services like subsidized training, local forum, and so forth. So basically, we have not much issue during this period, and then we are basically our NOC is ready, and pretty much I also work around the clock to monitor the network, and we don't have any much problem during this period. I think that's all right. Yes.
Perfect. I mean, the best thing to hear from anyone during this time is that there was no issue during the COVID-19 lockdown or even the situation, and IX was running, or the infrastructure was running smoothly. So that's the best thing. Good to hear from you, Raja. So now we'll go towards the Q&A towards all panelists. Make sure you to all the people on all the participants on the call, if you want to ask any question, we would request you to ask in the Q&A box, so that it is at one place and we can just ask this question to everyone. So the first question I have is, I mean, we saw from Japan, from Malaysia, from Nepal, that there was some impact in traffic during the daytime and in the night time as well. Nighttime, of course, usually in an IX environment, at night is the time when it's usually the peak. During the COVID days, what happened is all of a sudden it became twice a day you were getting a peak. So were you able to figure out that all the daytime peak was because of people at home watching Netflix, or it was homeschooling which was helping students learn from home? I understand that people don't, IXs don't do traffic analysis, but if there is any understanding that what was helping that daytime peak, it would be interesting to know. Toyama-san.
Yeah, so of course in Japan we have the privacy issues, so we cannot investigate a detail of the traffic. But watching the traffic from an operational point of view, the traffic volume are increased by that video traffic. Which one I cannot say, but yeah, like in the YouTube, Netflix, yeah, these kind of things, traffic is increasing. And of course, traffic sessions for working from home or working for studying from home is increasing. Yeah, so that is a phenomenon. Yeah.
Yeah, so anybody else has any statistics on it was because of the homeschooling or working from home, or what was causing the daytime peak?
I think mostly sorry.
Yeah.
On our side, we don't monitor traffic, but I think generally the traffic increased due to work from home, online schools, and also online shopping, like especially Food Panda, those kind of online businesses, Grab, sorry, not Grab, online Food Panda businesses. I think most of it are from these sectors only.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, Rupesh,
yeah, same with us as well. I mean, we do not do content filtering and all, but we definitely, I mean, our best guess is basically the traffic more than online education. We did the education and the classes started by different schools that were at different dates, so we could not track that the contribution part specifically. But definitely, if the work from home was for a lot of organizations, a lot of companies, was one of the major contributor to the traffic growth during the daytime. So that's basically what we saw. And then maybe during the nighttime, the OTT traffic and then the news portal and all those things were very aggressive, because the government of Nepal usually makes the the press briefing that happens every day at 4 p.m. Right? So that at 4 p.m. the traffic towards those kind of sites increases. So that's basically when you say that the two surges, maybe around like 9 a.m. and then around like that in the evening, there were also like a surge seen during the 4 p.m. where a lot of people were initially were very interested to hear what the ministry has to say about the COVID-19 situation. Because there's been lockdown enforced and people were not able to open their shops and then go out and all those things. But they were really anticipating that maybe something will come up, that the lockdown will be stopped, or so for example, maybe, or it has decreased, some kind of a good news will be there. So they in that anticipation, the lot of people listen to that those kind of press briefing and all those things through the various OTT mediums. So that's basically the 4 p.m. spike.
And even with all of us doing all that many Zoom calls during the day and during night, and trying to talk to the friends and the family members, of course, that contributed a lot in the daytime traffic and even at night as well. So, okay, that's interesting. So it's quite evident that the traffic has increased across the border in all IXs. Even a couple of days ago, I attended a meeting by IAA, which is Internet Association of Australia, which runs the IX Australia in Australia, and they were sharing the similar statistic. There was a huge bump in traffic, up to 30% when there was a lockdown in March, and in fact, even now, most of the states are free from any new COVID case for last couple of weeks, but still the traffic is not coming down. So it's now sustaining to the new levels, which everybody called new normal. Well, it's a new normal because still people are preferring to work from home. Even though schools are open, of course, the students are going back to school, but work from home is still happening. I'm having this Zoom call from home. So the traffic is still increasing. So there is a big impact on the IXs, big reliance on the IXs happening. There is absolutely no question on the importance of IX. If there was any for anyone, there shouldn't be any more. Now, going forward, IXPs played a role and showed to the world that they are the integral part of this internet ecosystem. Now, how IXPs can play a role to create a community and bring people together and show to the world that, well, we are as important a building block in any country's progress or any community progress like any other important infrastructure. What can be done? So again, I'll go with the same cycle. Toyama-san.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so during this COVID situation, our operation or the community making in Japan is as well. So we are doing it usually. But then I believe, and through this COVID situation, the internet, as we know, that the internet is an internet working of the network. So the connecting the network is very important. So from that perspective, the internet exchange is a hub to connect such kind of networks. So importance of the internet exchange is increasing, I think. So, so actually, we are not doing substantial things to the community now, but I think the importance is increasing as an internet exchange. So we can make more community active and more the peers with each other. So as all you know, that an peering is very important for us to communicate with network to network directly. When we're using the transit provider, we cannot get in case of the trouble, we cannot get the information between the networks. So internet exchange can play a very important role to communicate with the network itself. That will also the benefit of the end users and the companies of the internet. So yeah, I hope and I wish to contribute those things in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's and it's not just that the IXs are meeting in the corner of one of the conference room. It's now mainstream events. All of the IX events or the peering events are mainstream events. And next in line is Raja Mohan. What is MyIX IX is doing to bring the Malaysian community and the neighboring countries community together to help the whole ecosystem?
Yeah, as Toyama mentioned that the IXPs is very important, critical, is a critical infrastructure, and it is where the meeting point of all networks, whether it's coming from telco, or mobile, or content, video, games, so they can facilitate the aggregation of traffic, and end of the day, the user will have the better experience, better quality, and better fast response time. So, being a non-profit organization and a national infrastructure, we are actually because we do have two nodes, major nodes in Malaysia, and we have been quite stagnant in that sense for two nodes for quite some time. And knowing the importance of the IX, now we are actually extending our nodes. We call it satellite nodes, just like Hong Kong IX satellite nodes. We have extended our nodes in Cyberjaya. Currently, we have 3 nodes in Cyberjaya, and we have 2 remote nodes, one in southern and Johor, and one in East Malaysia, Kuching. So we are expanding gradually, slowly. If there's a business case, if there's a need, then we will extend our nodes to there so that we can serve not only the population in the Klang Valley, the main center, but also serve the local people or regional remote areas, so that everyone has the benefit from the existence of internet exchange points. No doubt, our organization, our IXP is not subscribed by the government, but we try to maintain our presence within our members' subscriptions. So that's our income revenue, right? So we try to manage, balance, expanding a node at the same time sustaining our node by ourselves.
Perfect, Rupesh.
Yeah, with the internet exchange has been very important part of this whole the whole situation right now. We basically, exchanges cater to the speed, latency, and cost. All 3 factors. The benefit is very much imminent for this community. But when we talk about building this community or extending this community, as I mentioned earlier, also the NPIX, as soon as this lockdown situation and COVID-19 lockdown situation started, we immediately reached out to NPNOG, the ISOC, and then the APNIC, and all those SANOG, and all the community stakeholders to see if there is anything that we can learn and that we can share with each other. Internet exchange, though the very crucial part of our, it's evident now, the awareness is very low right now, especially in Nepal. NPIX, we started in 2002, probably the first IX in South Asia as well. But the growth has been very slow in terms of the local traffic, and it's just been like 3-4 years that the growth of traffic has suddenly increased. Now, I also shared in the very interesting experience with you guys. When this lockdown situation happened, and after a week or so, government said that okay, even if the lockdown situation is there, the very important services, we call it Atyavasyak Seva, so very important services will be allowed to with the passes. So we reached out to the CDO office, the Home Ministry CDO office, and we said that we are an IXP and we need to make this operations running, and we are a very important part of this whole ecosystem, and everything's working on internet. So we need the free passes during the lockdown period. And they said, oh, so what do you do? We provide the fastest services of internet, and we make the internet fast. And the guy on the senior position said, okay, you set up an internet connection at my home first, and then I'll see how your speed is, and then we determine whether you are a very important service provider or not. And I tried to explain him this, sir, we don't provide the internet at home. We're not an ISP. And he said, okay, I understand that, but I understand what ISP is. And then I said, no, we are not ISP, we are IXP. And he said, no, I understand that. Set up an internet at my home first, and then I'll see, and then I'll define whether you're a very important service provider or not, and accordingly the pass will be allowed. Ultimately, I mean, the passes were not allowed, and we were not tagged as a very important service as part of this thing. So the awareness is, though the community, within the community, with this know-how, what is internet exchange, how its contribution is improving, but in general, people do not know what the IX is. We are always on the backside of the whole subscriber base. So people do not know what the contribution of IXP is. The community building exercises that definitely needs a little bit more push along with the community. The awareness and the public consciousness about the IXP and IXP benefit is definitely something that is required in the public sphere as well. So that's basically I must share.
Yes. Yeah, and so another round of question is it's asked by Bashir Ahmed Zishan, how IXPs are ensuring network availability if physical access is mandatory for outage recovery when physical movements were restricted. I mean, as you explained, Rupesh, for the movement, it was tricky. In Australia, all the telco or the ISP staff were considered as essential workers, so they were allowed to move around. Even with permit, you can travel to other states as well if you are an essential worker. So that it was a leniency was given to the essential workers in that manner. So Raja, how it impacted not just the IXP if there was any issue or anything like that, but in general, the service providers, how they cope up with it. They were allowed to move out easily, or they were restricted as well?
As I mentioned in the first slide, the telecommunication services are actually essential services. Therefore, they are allowed to operate. So, but they require a work permit, something like that from the police, so they can deploy their services. So there's no issue for them to deploy, for instance, increasing the capacity during this period.
So was there any time when you had to send someone to upgrade something or fix something at one of your exchange point or POPs?
Yes, we have, as I mentioned during the slides, several telcos and operators are actually, they have a surge in their traffic. So they have to increase their port. That's where our vendors actually went in and upgrade their port, additional ports and those things. So we have no issue as long as we have a police permit, and also we have a support from our regulatory department, MCMC. They gave a letter to us saying that you can, operate on these hours during the COVID and the movement control order. So there's no issue for us.
So Toyama-san, how many upgrades you made during the last 2 months or 3 months, I would say?
Oh yeah, I cannot say the actual numbers, but the eyeball side, customer ISP or that kind of things, not so many upgrades of their ports. Okay. On the other hand, the server side, the content side, some of the content provider urgently increase the ports. That is because their service get sudden be popular. Everyone access to the services, so that they need to upgrade their services. So we upgrade their ports, but eyeball side, not so many. So that means in the Japanese ISP are usually they have the sufficient enough capacity for the traffics.
Okay, so there's another question from Shubham Goyal, and he's saying, we are running a public DNS resolver, but we saw that nowadays the traffic has increased. that's an interesting one. I'm sure most of the IXs are running root servers, but no public resolver as such. But was there any change in the root server traffic, or it was just normal like the way it was before? Anyone running any root server alongside the IXs? Yes, Toyama-san.
Yeah, so on the route server point of view, we have not changed any situation because the peering policy is doing as usual, no special treatment. So maybe some prefixes maybe increase or decrease, but then from our point of view, no impact of the route servers.
No, and the DNS root server. Are you running any L or K root server as
route server? Oh yeah. So DNS root server. Sorry for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are providing the connection to the root servers. Yeah, but they have enough capacity.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they hardly use much traffic anyway, right? So it's usually in megabytes, and if it increased to few hundred megabytes, it's not going to impact much. So I still remember back in the days, like probably 10 years ago, our froot server had a 10 meg threshold that if the traffic goes beyond 10 meg, just send an email that there is something wrong. So because that's not ordinary. The ordinary traffic was used to be within 10 meg. So I mean, it's 10 years ago. So things have changed since then. But I understand there's not much traffic, and it's very rare that people run public DNS resolver. It's a good thing, Shivang, to hear that. I didn't know that. It's probably I'm going to reach out to you separately and see what we can learn from running a public DNS resolver at the IX. That would be interesting. Now, moving ahead, again, if you have more questions, we have another question from Narelle. Narelle did an amazing session for IAA, which I was mentioning. So she's saying, Aftab, do you want me to clarify the essential worker thing? It was more complex than that. Narelle, that would be great if the session boss can give speaking rights, and here you go. That's it.
Hi, Aftab. Hi, everybody. Yes, we have a situation in Australia where there are different states in Australia, and so some of the states of Australia have got their borders closed from the other states, and everybody is all supposed to stay at home. But the federal government has told us that every job is an essential job, but do stay at home. Otherwise, the state governments will fine you thousands of dollars. So it's kind of a bit more complex. We're not technically an essential service under the federal government legislation, so it's a little bit trickier than that. But the fact is, everybody knows that if telecoms and internet services were not considered essential during this period, there would have been an actual revolution on the streets. So what I had to do was to go through all the different legislation and regulations and write a letter for each of my staff and the board members that we had acting on our behalf that said this person is allowed out onto the street under this legislation, under this regulation, because we're the internet and it's really important. Of course, I wrote it in very bureaucratic language, and all of my staff and board had that letter to carry with them, and we had new ID cards printed so that people could officially identify themselves as working for us. Of course, we decided not to send any of our staff into state. We could have got permits for them to go into state if we needed to, but I chose not to on safety reasons. And we did manage to contact some local people on the ground that we could then use for remote hands, because of course all our stuff we can access remotely. And that was, we had to come to some interesting arrangements there. So to quickly reach out to people that we knew we could trust to get them on the ground to go to different data centers to do some work for us. So it was really quite a complex set of actions to make sure that my staff wouldn't be fined thousands of dollars just for going to do work that everybody knew was essential, but technically wasn't.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, Narelle. I still remember watching the news that somebody was fined for eating a shawarma, we call it shawarma, or a kebab in the park. So it was not an essential thing to do at all. So that was something people were just worried that they have to be very cautious and very watchful that what they are doing outside. So yeah, thank you for clarifying that one. And as I mentioned that you were moderating an amazing session for the Australian community, Australian ANZ community, I would say, and we learned quite a lot of things from that one. Now, heading back to the questions, there are more popping up. So let me go ahead with that one. Oh, we have a question from Duncan McIntosh from the APNIC Foundation. What is the most important lesson from COVID in terms of the IXP operation? One thing, what I have seen conducting multiple sessions with it, one in Southeast Asia, we did it for the networking from home, and then there was one from South Asia. It's mostly if there are no changes, everything just works. Exactly. And the idea is if it's not broken, don't fix it. But what we have seen is sudden change of traffic, new peaks hitting every day. There were upgrades. Most of the upgrades were just physical upgrades. But still, if you are touching an equipment, there is a likelihood that you're going to hit your elbow somewhere else. So what is the biggest lesson you have learned in such times, I would say? So again, Toyama-san, starts with you.
Yeah. Okay. So the COVID-19 is an unexpected risk we had. So the engineers, especially the engineers, we fear the engineers will be infected, and if one person is infected, so the whole engineers may be quarantined and they cannot do in the hospital or the house. They have to stay in a hotel or house. So in the case we cannot operate. So so basically, at the first stage we learned to split two teams, and one team's working from home, one team's going to office or other place, and if one team has an infected, then other teams will do that. Such things are the most important learning from this period. Of course, and usually in the April, all the engineers working from home. So at the time, we did not split to the two, but in the future, we are thinking about such kind of a two-team working. That is some kind of important things, actions we have to do.
Right. So, Raja.
Okay. Over MyIX, we only have 2 staff, so we don't have a issue with this COVID-19 because we outsource our operation to a third party. So myself is I manage everything. The other person will be managing accounts, so we don't have an issue. We can work from home all the time. So on the technical expenditure or upgrade or pause, so we have no issue because we are putting our standard operating process in place. So there's a time you can upgrade 12 to 6, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, this kind of thing. And the other aspect that we learned from the IXP during the COVID-19 situation, basically some networks have more traffic, some networks have less traffic. So that shows that some have more business, some have less business. So as a non-profit organization, as an association-based organization, we need to be listen to their carousels or their problem, we defer their payment, all those things we actually try to manage, and we try to entertain, and as long as the community is intact, I think it's fine with us. So that's what we learned from during the during the period of COVID-19, up and down. And then the rest is, our board meeting basically we run on the Zoom. So that's about it.
So, Rupesh, how many times your engineers disconnected the wrong cable?
I agree with what you've said earlier. If the things are not necessary to be touched, it's not broken, I mean, don't touch it. So basically, the lesson that I think we need to learn from this COVID situation is as much as possible, depend less on the physical movement. Since the NPIX is also a not-for-profit organization, we have some very good community involvement in it. And community, one of the things that was very handy and was very useful, and then one of the lessons that we can all learn from it is to keep the community intact for any kind of situation like this. When the things happen, I mean, the community people, they really do support. And one of the lessons that we've learned is during COVID-19 or the mega earthquake that happened in Nepal, the community was the community frontliners were the people who really came up front and then helped internet exchange. Data center hosting, we are hosting our switches in the data centers. We have that is another thing. As much as possible, running your own data center is something that you would like to tempted to do. As with the NPIX, we something that we think it is working right now, and we want to keep it as it is to outsource our switches hosting and all those things to a data center host where we can get a good support. As I mentioned earlier, also we were able to get the remote hand support from them. We could have like they can arrange 2-3 people on any given shift. They can arrange their own passes and all the whatever it's required. So that is another thing that we can learn from. We learn from this COVID-19 situation. Also, not only the organization and other companies, the IX also needs to be ready to work from home. We also need to be ready to keep the staff to be ready to work from home, and that's kind of a setup that we need to set up for going forward, as well as continue as a new normal, as you've said. Also, another thing that we definitely would want to learn as a lesson, and we need to keep it. I mean, not only because of the coronavirus, there might be like 1,000 other viruses going around, which probably we might not have noticed so far. So any inventory that comes in needs to be sanitized. That's basically what, and as much as possible, don't bring any unknown stuff in your network. So that's another thing. And then don't touch it, don't bring it, and then as much as possible work from home. And then the redundancy. So NPIX, we do have 2 different sites on a kind of a redundant model, where with help of Internet Society, we're extending it to 2 more sites in the very near future. As soon as new switches comes in, we will expand it to the older switches to another new locations. So that's something that we were able to plan during the lockdown period as well, to implement that. So those things, and then another thing that we also learned, and maybe we acted on, was we've been using Viber in Nepal. In Nepal, Viber is very popular. All our members, pairing members, they communicate by Viber. But the one we realized that maybe there is a good and immediate way to reach out to each other and then get things done immediately. But there was no proper archival of information, no listing. So we had mailing list in place, but this lockdown period also gave us time and then build that understanding with our members to create reactivate the mailing list for NPIX members. And then that is something that also was a kind of a lesson for us to not only depend on the Viber and then the social media stuff, but also need to have a set up mailing list and all those things more on an institutionalized basis to keep track of all the logs and all the history behind what has happened when and all those things. So that's
an interesting point, because I was talking to one of my colleagues, and there is a huge Telegram channel for the community in Italy. So that's interesting to know that some of the community members have decided to take one platform and go ahead with it. I know Viber is very famous in Nepal, and yeah, that's a great one. Just to quick one on the word you mentioned about the resiliency. So I understand the IXPs are it's at the end of the day is usually 2 switches and a route server. But what else you think you are doing in your own capacity? Of course, every IX is increasing number of POPs. They have to make sure that they are closer to the service provider in most part of the country or the city they are running in. But what else you are doing in terms of resiliency? And do you think there should be a support from the government, seeing that this is now an essential part of this ecosystem? That there should be regulatory support from the government, there should be policy support from the government as well as the regulator, that this should be protected just like any other essential infrastructure of any other country. Rupesh, let's start from here and then go in a reverse cycle like I was doing in previously.
You caught me off guard with this. So I was expecting, you caught me on this, so I was expecting Toyama to speak first. So yeah, so in terms of resiliency and the government support, definitely yes, that is something that, as I mentioned earlier, also the awareness is something that is very important for the government support or any kind of support that is required. Yeah, the NPIX during this period of COVID-19, we stood strong. The network was very resilient, as I mentioned. All the preparations that we did in the past, from how even during the earthquake or during the capacity increase during the World Cup. So all those things came into effect. And then the matter of the fact that we are not a very big IX, we are small IX, and but it's a growing IX. It's a very if you look at the percentage size, we are growing at the percentage of the growth of the bigger IXPs. But in terms of the volume, probably less. But we do need to prepare everything in the same context as we need to prepare for the bigger IX context. So yes, the human resources that we need to put in place, the infrastructure that we need to put in place, and then the financials and everything that we need to put in place is something that we did not only plan for this. It was coming as a system from the past itself. So that's somehow backed us up right now also. And one of the questions that I saw earlier from someone earlier before Duncan, I think, was also kind of anyways. Let's basically, I mean, that's basically what we have. So we can go.
Right. So Raja, do you think the policies and the regulatory support is already in place in Malaysia, or you think more should be done to protect this part of the essential? I mean, IXPs as well, or there is no protection for the IXP. They are just treated as just normal network service provider.
Okay. Actually, for MyIX is slightly different because the IX was initiated by the government itself. It was a government policy, and then the government funded the IX from the initial way back in 2006. And when they set up the inter-exchange, they hand over the IX to the industry itself. But as you know now, there are many IXs. I mean, I would say that there are 3 IXs in Malaysia. It seems there's no policies put in Malaysia that, I don't know whether the IX should be regulated or not, because we see that IX is coming from every angle. It's whether local or overseas or international, don't know how. They come out and set up IX in Malaysia, and they call it IX, and I don't know whether it's a virtual IX, whether it's a physical IX. So these are things actually, I would say it's not bothering, but I think something that need to be regulated, so that everyone knows what is the role of IX. And then some of the IX are actually doing more than the IX supposed to do. So when they try to do more than the IX role, then that's where the problem starts. So I think generally IX also should be regulated, so they just serve their community, interconnected networks only, rather than competing with the member itself. So that's why our problem in Malaysia is, since we are an association-based IX, our policy is always, we are member-based position. So for anything that we do, that in the IX, any services we introduce, it has to be serve the public, serve the members. In other words, serve the public. So that's why we don't have, like, for instance, we don't encourage networks to do IP transit in MyIX. So that's what we do now. But I think there are a couple of IXs in Malaysia doing everything. So that's a big challenge for us. I don't think it's a challenge, but I think it's going to come soon, and it's going to rock bottom the IXP itself. So that's where the government should come in and regulate the IXPs, so that they do what they're supposed to do. And then if you're interested in do something else, then you open up a network or whatever, open up ISP, and you do this kind of stuff. So I think that's where the community, that's where the government should come and regulate. So in terms of community, we have a NOC, MyNOC. MyNOC is always conducting the forums every year. And then because of this COVID-19, we don't have this year. And I hope that government will also encourage a lot of foreign investments to come in, set up networks in Malaysia, and they are more friendly, business friendly, especially when now our government is, just a new government, and not sure whether it's going to be stable or not. So the government needs to be user friendly, business friendly to the business people all over the world. And then political stability is very important. Is important. So I hope that we have that in our country as soon as possible.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Just to clarify, ISOC's position is very clear. We always support the bottom-up, inclusive, and member-based IXs, and we always encourage that it should be inclusive and based on the non-commercial attitude, rather than so that it can serve the people rather than for doing anything else. So that's our standpoint is clear. So yes, I agree with you. So Toyama-san, Japan is one of the most, I would say, very aggressive in terms of IX. There are so many IXs, and they are very, very community-driven. Some of them are very community-driven and very successful. So do you think in non-regulation has helped this ecosystem, or there are some policies and guidelines by the government or the regulator which help in this regard?
Yeah, so as you said, well, in Japan is in just a little special situation from other countries, I think. And we are, there are commercial internet exchanges for major commercial internet exchanges in Japan, and they are competing with each other and operate the internet exchange business. And no intervention or interfere from a government. So we are self-regulated, and we are doing contributed to the community the best. Yeah. So that is now the Japanese attitude. So basically, on the telecommunication world, we do not like and interfere with from the government. So we are, of course, we are good friends with the government. We are doing the good things for the Japanese people. Okay, so that is a basic our policy. Okay, yeah, and of course, in the Japanese company or Japanese people are very sensitive about an outage of the network services. So we are all the Japanese internet exchanges have a fully redundant network and high availability. And this time that was helped during the COVID situation. So we have usually the enough capacity and fully redundant network. That means if some failure happen, we can fully redundant system, so the the backup system can work. And so that helps COVID situation, and that is in a very different from other countries, I think. Yeah. So, but in such kind of redundancy or resiliency is very important. So, from the disaster recovery point of view, we have Tokyo and Osaka, two big cities, and if Tokyo hit an earthquake, the Osaka can back up. So such kind of resiliency or redundancy is very important for other countries, because then the internet becomes a very important infrastructure for our life, for our society. So of course, and it needs some money, and we are doing it by ourselves. But in some countries, government may support such kind of a redundancy or resiliency. Yeah. And
that's very unique situation for Japan. I understand that, and it actually helped the whole ecosystem within the country. And as I mentioned, all these big IXs within the country are the most successful ones, and they are actually helping the members in the best possible manner. So yes, that's a unique situation. I have now two questions before we wrap up quickly. One from Mawatari-san. Okay, good to see you from JPIX. So speakers told that NPIX provide the port at low cost, and MyIX provide the port for free during the period. How many participants have used this program? So Rupesh, have you given port on discounted rate? And so how many people availed that facility?
Yeah, in fact, as I was saying in my presentation also, Internet Exchange Nepal, NPIX, is not for profit organization. So during the AGM, we decide on what the pricing should be for the membership. It's a very flat membership, monthly membership fee structure. So members decide on the membership fee that they want to pay based on the operational cost and all those things. So we've agreed that it will be $100, around $100 in Nepalese rupees. So US dollar 100 for membership. Based on that, they will get the free port in any of the exchange sites that we have. So it can be up to like 10 gig port that we can provide as of now. So $100 per month for 10 gig capacity is something that we've already doing. And there has not been any request for even waiving that off during the lockdown period from any of our members. So our assumption is, I mean, they're okay with that, and it's quite reasonable for them. There was also similar question from Christian earlier from Africa. I think I could see that question, that asking that how can IX be affordable to provide the quality internet? I think it's in the same line. I mean, we are, as in case of NPIX, we definitely are affordable. $100 for 1 gig port or 10 gig port per month is something that's very affordable, and people can. But the point is, you need to have the content. So content and the eyeball, we need to be closer to the eyeball, and then the speed and then quality internet determines that. And at the same time, if we run our services with the low cost that we are currently providing as a non-profit organization, that is, I think, something that we've done. And then so far as to your question, during the lockdown period, $100 per month that we are charging to our members for data centers, ISPs, and content providers, and all those people that we have our members. That is something, it's probably reasonable for them to pay, and then there has not been any question to discount that or anything like that. That's basically what's happening. And also coming back to, I think, Aftab's question on the government regulation part. In Nepal, there is no IXP regulation, though there are licensing provision for internet service providers and the ISPs. For internet exchange, there is no such provisions. But there has been like talk of that the government wants to set up its own internet exchange, own internet gateway, or own data center. So all those things to build that together into one setup across the border area. So that is something that we are a little bit concerned about, that the whole understanding of the IX is not very clear with the if it's not very clear with the regulators, that there might come up with the policies that might be anti-competitive or not very relevant for the industry. So
yeah, so that was in fact my point was that regulation is a very strong word. It's there should be a clear message from the government and from the regulator that this is an essential part of the internet, and it should be protected in a way that it is open and able to run without any issues. So things like you mentioned, because it is not clarified anyone. I still remember back in Pakistan, because when we started establishing the first IX, the first thing we got a letter from the regulator that where is your license? And we said, okay, fine. So which license we should apply? And they said, apply for the ISP. And said, we are not an ISP. We're not providing transit. And it was a long discussion, and it took us for some time. I mean, then I was not part of the ISOC at that time, but thanks to ISOC at that time that they jumped in and helped clarify that IX has its own, is an own entity, can serve its purpose. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't require a licensing regime, and which regulator agreed. And now there's an IX in Pakistan. So that's what I was saying in terms of the support from the regulatory framework, that it should be clarified that what is the role of an IX within the country, so it is known to the government, to the regulator, and to everybody playing their part within the ecosystem, so that they don't mess around with the IX if they're running as well. So going back to Raja, MyIX provided free ports. How successful that program was?
We don't have a program for free port actually. Because over in MyIX, we release our port charges almost every year without fail. And as more networks join, we try to release our port charges. So during the COVID-19, we noticed that 5 of the IBORs networks actually they increased the capacity due to the lockdown period, and people are working from home. So for that upgrade, we actually waived the port charges from April to April to July. So we only give that waiver to those who are upgraded during the COVID due to traffic increase only. Other than that, we don't have any other program.
Okay.
Because our ports are quite reasonable prices.
Okay, that's perfect. Just last round of question. There are a few other as well. I'll try. Wow, it's like when I said it's a last round, I see 2 more questions popping up. Right. So let me try one question from Joha. The economics of handling the increased traffic during lockdown is very interesting. Would be good to see some data on that. I don't know if I understand that correctly, because the beauty of the IX is the more, it doesn't matter how much traffic you're pushing through through an IX. It's just the port cost. If you have a 10 gig port, yes, if that there is a big difference between a 10 gig traffic going to an IX and 10 gig traffic going to a transit, because that's at one end it's a few $1,000s, and the other end it's few $100s. If I take an example of Australia, if the ISP I'm connected to lose its connectivity with the IX, I will face a real problem in terms of services, because the ISP doesn't have a lot of transit capacity. They rely a lot on the IX capacity. So this is the economics where we say the IX plays a very important role in terms of keeping the cost down. Because you're keeping the traffic within the country, it's not leaving the borders, or sometimes not even the state. So that's how you keep the price low, and that's how it makes a lot of difference. Now, to everyone on the panel, what other message you want to give to other IXs in the region? I can see we have Ms. Kain on the call. She represents Myanmar IX. I saw GZ Kabir, who is partly part of BDIX, and I saw Nurani from Links. I saw a few other folks representing. Of course, we had Narelle from the IX Australia. So there are so many people, IXs in this talk, and there are so many which are not part of this talk right now. What message you want to give to bring them together as one big giant community?
Hi.
Toyama-san, from you. Sorry.
Yeah. So not in a detailed technique kind of thing, but as I mentioned during this panel discussion, so internet exchange can play a much more important role in this internet community. So not only populate internet exchange, or especially the neutral internet exchange all over the world, but also the operation. And it's an redundancy or resiliency, should be more and more increased. So that is our message. Of course, it needs some kind of cost, but we are operating the infrastructure. So maybe we invest on that, and we will make a much more happy society in this world.
Yes, and one more thing I would like to mention, that Toyama-san pioneered in organizing a weekly bring your own coffee, I would say, but usually it's not coffee, session once a week, and it's growing every week. It's for the IX and the peering people and the people associated with this community. So that's an amazing attempt initiated by Toyama-san. So I really thank you for that one. So Raja, what message you want to give to the other IXs in the region who are coming up, or they're struggling, or the small community, that what being a successful IX in the country and in the region?
Beside the sustainability on the commercial aspects, I think the most important thing is the operations, where I think a few things have to be in place, like for instance, your mailing list to all your networks. Second thing is you need to have your route server in place with a full redundant. Probably you need to have 2 routing servers, and also your switches is full redundant. And then on top of that, you need to have a standard operating procedure where you can upgrade, when you can downgrade. All this activity has to be controlled so that you have a minimal impact whenever there's outage. So I think these are the key operational items that you need to have in place so that your IX is your service availability is almost perfect.
Moving to you, Rupesh.
Yeah. So I think the basic advantage of IX is something that we still need to retain, and that's something that needs to be on the top line consideration. Speed, latency, and cost. IX, when we start an IX, when we operate an IX, we need to be very cognizant that the advantage of IX is one of the advantages of the IX is its cost. We need to have the affordable operation of an IX. So that's very important for our members or the customers. Second part, the speed, and for speed, I mean, you need to be closer to an eyeball. You need to have a content that's good for your the clients. And then the latency part and the same thing. So basically, the operations needs to be fixed, and then don't touch it if you don't need to touch it. So basically, so the things that we've already discussed on the earlier on the lesson learned as well, the redundancy part, resilience and redundancy, that needs to be on the top line importance of the IX setup. And also the affordability, and then the community-driven approach is something you can think of if you can. Otherwise, some of the most other ISPs, there are also a lot of ISPs which are commercially very successful. So as to say, they might have a different model to it, but I think that the bottom line is speed, latency, and the cost that needs to be the prime important thing for the IXP operations. And also the community part, we have in the APIX, which is the great community of internet exchange right now. Along with that, NOGs are also trying to help the IX with NPIX. I can proudly say that NPIX has been like proudly supported by NPNOG and even SANOG. So we are hosting SANOG in January next year. So hopefully the Corona thing will be normal by then. And if the thing normalizes, we would like to host SANOG. NPIX will be hosting SANOG next year, 2021 January. Probably conference in Pokhara and then workshop in Kathmandu, something like that. So, but that will be done through the community engagement and all those things. So NPNOG will be a co-host of that. That's the approach that we take, and we are successful with that. We are happy with that. Our members and clients are happy with that. Our regulators been the Nepal Telecom Authority has been supporting us for any kind of events like this, as well as they're supporting NPIX in terms of like our any kind of having any event and all those things. So I think take away from this session, I think the same thing again one more time: speed, cost, and the latency that we need to think and keep up redundancy and community.
Perfect, because that's important, and I would say the role APIX has played in last few years to bring the community, the peering community together is just amazing. I mean, it's just in front of my eyes. I've been part of this community for more than 10 years, but in last 5-6 years, the APIX has brought so many peering people together in one room. And made sure that it is not locked outside, locked from the outside. So it's open to everybody who can come in and can learn from others that how they are running these successful IXs. So that's hats off to APIX as well, in terms of encouraging other players to come and do a healthy competition rather than something different. So that's absolutely. So this brings end to our discussion. And before I hand it over to Naveed for the closing remarks, I would say thank you so much for everyone for all the questions. There are still a few unanswered questions I wish I could have answered, but I've taken a note. Probably we'll try to reach out to you independently. And that's all from my end. Thank you to my panel. Over to you, Naveed.
Thanks, Aftab. And again, thank you to all the 3 IX panelists that joined us. This webinar was brought to you together by Internet Society and APIX. So I think it was a great collaboration, a very interesting session. We ran 3 minutes above the allocated time, but still I see people are hanging over and they're interested to know more. I would also like to thank you, Rajneesh Singh and Howard, who were on the backstage helping us to keep this moving on. So thanks, Raj and Hobby, for this. This all was brought together with a team of people. So it was important that we credit their contribution as well. Moving forward, we are doing a survey, which is pretty much completed together with APIX. So folks, there would be something coming soon, perhaps in next week, a publication on a survey that we did with all the IX, more or less, from Asia Pacific, and we got some very valuable data in it. So you will be hearing more on how other IX have been responding during COVID-19. So please keep a look on that at ISOC website or APIX website. I have just pasted the email addresses. These are important email addresses. Please contact us for any further information, because I see some of the people are still interested to know more about IX and how perhaps they can help within their local communities and countries. Our doors are always open. As Aftab said, we are a bottom-up organization which is led by the community. Together, again, organizations like APIX. So Toyama-san, thank you again for this collaboration. We look forward to increase our partnership with APIX moving forward this year. There are, of course, plans to do some studies as well, some reports. So hopefully everything should go fine. With this, I'd like to close formally. Again, thank you, everyone. Stay safe, and we will catch you soon online somewhere. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay.
Thank you.